why Canada's Worst Driver was the most honest reality show ever made. There's a strange comfort in watching someone else make the mistakes you're terrified you might make yourself. And no show captured that feeling, that mix of chaos, humility, and accidental self-reflection, quite like Canada's Worst Driver. On paper, it was a reality show about bad driving, but in practice, it was a character study, a pressure cooker, a weirdly wholesome therapy session disguised as a demolition derby. And somehow, it became one of the most quietly brilliant reality shows ever produced. Today, I want to explore why Canada's Worst Driver wasn't just entertaining, it was revealing, and why, beneath the crashes and cones, it might have been one of the most honest shows on television. Most reality shows start with a hook. Canada's Worst Driver started with a confession. Every season began with people nominating their friends and family members, not because they were villains, not because they were dramatic, but because they were scared. Scared of their driving, scared of the consequences, scared of what might happen if someone didn't intervene. And that's the first secret of the show's genius. It wasn't built on conflict, it was built on concern. Instead of, who will betray who, the question was, can this person get better before they hurt themselves or someone else? That's a very different emotional engine. It's not cynical, it's not manipulative, it's human. Every hero's journey needs a guide, and Canada's Worst Driver had one of the best, Andrew Younghusband. He wasn't a drill sergeant, he wasn't a comedian, he wasn't a therapist, but somehow he played all three roles at once. He had this uncanny ability to be disappointed and supportive at the same time. Like a camp counselor watching a kid eat dirt for the third time, but still believing in their potential. He narrated the chaos with a tone that said, I can't believe this is happening, but I'm here for you. And that's the wonderful part. He wasn't judging them, he was guiding them through a trial. The show wasn't about humiliation, it was about transformation. On the surface, the challenges were absurd. Parallel park between foam moose. Drive through a maze of obstacles. Reverse a car while blindfolded with only verbal instruction. But each challenge was secretly a metaphor. The swerve and avoid wasn't just about reflexes, it was about panic. The eye of the needle wasn't about precision, it was about trust. The water tank challenge wasn't about speed, it was about control. Every task was a tiny morality play. Can you stay calm under pressure? Can you listen? Can you learn? Can you change? And when someone finally nailed a challenge they'd been failing all season, it felt like a character arc completing itself. Reality TV usually casts for conflict. Canada's Worst Driver cast for vulnerability. These weren't fame-hungry contestants. They were people who knew they had a problem, or were finally being forced to admit it. And that vulnerability created something rare, genuine emotional stakes. You weren't typically rooting against anyone. You were rooting for them. The show let people be flawed without overly mocking them. It let them struggle without completely shaming. And when someone had a breakthrough, emotional or mechanical, it felt earned. This is where the show quietly transcended its genre. It wasn't about bad drivers. It was about people confronting the parts of themselves they'd been avoiding. Some seasons had moments that were genuinely emotional. A driver admitting they were terrified because of a past crash. Someone realizing their anxiety wasn't just about driving, it was about life. A contestant breaking down because they finally understood how their habits affected the people around them. And the show didn't exploit these moments, it held space for them. In a genre built on humiliation, Canada's Worst Driver somehow became a place where people could be honest, messy, scared, and still support it. It was reality TV with empathy. In a world where reality shows have become louder, meaner, and more manufactured, Canada's Worst Driver felt almost radical. It believed people could improve. It believed embarrassment wasn't the same as failure. It believed that growth was worth documenting. And maybe that's why the show still has a cult following. It wasn't about the crashes. It was about the courage it takes to admit you need help and the hope that you can get better. Canada's Worst Driver wasn't perfect. It was chaotic, messy, and sometimes unbelievable. But beneath all that, it was one of the most unexpectedly sincere shows ever made. It reminded us that everyone has blind spots, literally and metaphorically, and that sometimes the only way to fix them is to let someone else take the wheel for a moment.